if there's something that's placed on your heart, you have to commit and you have to see it through. And there'll be moments of doubt and fear and ups and downs and setbacks and moments when you move forward and you think it's going to be easeful. And all that came to a culmination as I crossed that line, saying like, for me, it took this long. And every step and everything that happened on that path was life. It's life. It's the ebb and flow of life. It's the ups and it's like the ocean. So I don't wish it any other way. And it happened so magically and perfectly because I released attachment to how it actually had to be achieved. And when you do that, as Jennifer was talking about earlier, you just have this calm appreciation for what it is that's happening, knowing that it's for your higher growth as a person. So when I crossed that line, I did tick a box on things that one thing that I have been looking to complete for many years now. But it also showed me that I'm not defined by this one event. This isn't the end. I'm still on the path. There's much, much more to go. And whether that includes coming back to Kona or more Ironmans, whatever it is, that's just one aspect. I think at the essence of it is that you need to find what you love and pursue it relentlessly until you achieve it.
Nobody up until maybe a few years ago ever thought that, including myself, that this is something that I could actually do. And in that journey, there was moments when I started, first my coach believed in me. And so I borrowed her belief in myself because I didn't have it. And then eventually I started to believe. And then I really started to believe. And then when I realized what it would take for me to get here is a lot of patience and consistency and perseverance, then I knew I could be here because I knew I could do that as long as it took. And so to sit here and for me, actually, the finish line was amazing. The most emotional start was the 5 minutes when you're treading water waiting for the race to start. And you're out there in the ocean, you have these other women, we're all super excited to be here. And the day is ahead of you. And there's no way I was not going to finish that. I would have crawled if I needed to finish that race. So I knew the finish line was inevitable. What was inevitable is getting to that start line. So to be in the water and being you know what? It's going to happen. It's just it is going to happen. In 30 seconds, this is going to happen. And to be there and to know that I did something that most people would never have thought that I could do and never achieve what I've been able to achieve and never be able to work through what I've worked through to be in this moment and to be a part of this dream that I've had that I made happen. I just made this happen.
Welcome back to the Yogi Triathlete Podcast. I'm Jess. I'm here with Beej, and I'm here with Jennifer Vollman. We are in Kailua-Kona, Hawaii. After the big dance, it is Sunday, the day after the men raced the Ironman World Championship. And 3 days, not great at math, but our audience knows that. I think it's 3 days since the women and a few of the age group males raced on Thursday of this week. And these guys came through the finish line, so smooth, so graceful, so beautiful, so strong. They both had amazing days, and we are here to smack it down. And Jennifer has been on the podcast before. If you listen to this show, then you know that she was on episode 314 with Dan Casey. She is the co-founder of the Pura Vida Cycling Challenge, which, if you listen to this podcast, you know is a life-transformative experience. And if you're looking to up-level your bike fitness, that is the place to go to do it. It's a 5-day cycling challenge, some of the greatest climbs in the world, so well run. The food's amazing. You can totally eat vegan the whole time because there's nothing, in my opinion, better than Norm's Monster Vegan Burrito that you get after you ride. So anyway, enough about me and me talking here. Let's talk to these guys. BJ and Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's exciting to be back on.
So happy to be here. The day after.
Yeah, so we all just went for a recovery swim this morning out in some of the saltiest water I've ever swam in. It's just so beautiful. There's chop, there's swell, there's fish, there's reef. It's absolutely gorgeous. We have a ton of questions, you guys, and I think we're just going to dive in, and I'm just going to dive in with the first one that we have. So if they seem out of order, well, we got to just relax into that, because we're going to go right into these questions, starting with question from Jeanette, who is on Team Yogi Triathlete. Let's dive right into nutrition. I love it because I think both of you did pretty well on your nutrition, but I think there's always room for improvement. So Jennifer, I'm going to send it over to you for the first part of this question, which is, how many calories did you take in on the bike and on the run?
So on the bike, I've done a couple hot races before. I'm from Arizona. And so even these hot races, I know that I can take in a lot of calories because I've trained that way. So I think I had a 6-hour bike ride and I had 400 calories an hour, like give or take, plus a lot of salt. In all liquid form. So I use Scratch Super Fuel and the right stuff, plus some like chews and blocks and SIS gels, and I had that. And the run, I honestly don't know. It got a little foggy after mile 8, like a cup, maybe, a cup of Coke, cup of Gatorade, maybe a gel, something on the ground, whatever was out there by that time. I'm not totally sure what happened after mile 8 in the run. It's kind of a blur, but I was able to fuel all the way through. There was never a point where I wasn't at every aid station fueling. This race, they actually had fewer aid stations. So there are 8 less aid stations than usual, which did, I think, make a difference and throw off maybe a bit of nutrition. But I was really well fueled all the way through the race.
And then the second part of that question is, do you feel like it was enough? And as we were reviewing these questions prior to hitting record, you had a super insightful perspective on just any question that is in regards to calories and how much and was it enough. And so I'd love for you to share that perspective. I think it's quite insightful.
Yeah, I think I'm also a coach too. So I coach a bunch of athletes through their nutrition. And inevitably, I think whenever people are really concerned about how many calories everybody is getting, if it's enough and it's fueled, there's probably a level of underfueling happening with that athlete. Very rarely have been asked an athlete ask me if I had enough and they also have enough, right? So I haven't ever experienced that. So I think if that's something that you're questioning, what are people eating? Is enough? Are they fueled? I think maybe the reflection goes back to yourself. And is that something that you need to look at? Are you eating enough? Are you feeling enough? Do you feel fueled, and fueled all the way through your racing?
Yeah, I love that perspective because, I never ask anybody how many calories. I'm always just okay, how many more? I feel like I'm fueled, but now can I get in more and what does that look like? So I think that base level is just, getting yourself to a point where you actually don't need to ask that question anymore. And you'll know when you're fueled, you'll know how that feels. And I think we all know the signs and symptoms of not fueling enough, and it rolls right into your recovery. And I even think your mental state, because, carbs are a huge energy mechanism for our brains. Okay, Beej, I'm going to hand that over to you. How many calories did you take in, and was it enough? Because you've, I think, taken in too little calories before, so you've learned.
I've most certainly learned through the years. I've gone extreme, both sides. Not enough and then way too much. On the bike, I think I really dialed in the bike, and I want to say my nutrition was spot on because of pacing. I think dishing out the effort that I gave allowed me to maybe absorb what I was putting in my body, because I went more than I normally do. So I would say I was upwards of 350, 375 probably per hour. Normally I'm the 250 because of the Roctane. But I took in gels and bananas and I think that was it. Yeah, gels and bananas, and then Roctane. And I went through 6 bottles of Roctane. So, it's 1,500 calories right there. And then the sodium, the right stuff. I had 1 full package of the right stuff in each water bottle. So 1,700 milligrams per water bottle in addition to the 300 or whatever from Roctane. So, Yeah, it might have been too much on paper, but I actually felt fine. I think I calculated upwards of 11,000 milligrams on the bike and run for this race. So for a 12-hour race, let's say 12 hours, comes out to what did we say last night? Like a little over 1,000, 1,200 per hour. Yeah. And actually I saw Fenella Langridge's, because I think she used Precision or something, and she had spot on nutrition because she had a great race too, and she was like 11 to 1,200 milligrams of sodium too. So this goes back to, are you a heavy sweater? What's happening later into a race? How are you feeling the day after? Do you have headaches? Like this is all your body trying to find homeostasis, trying to find balance. And if you can stay on top of your electrolytes more, then you're going to feel a little bit better. And then on the run, I actually had a handheld with Roctane and a Right Stuff in it. And all I kept doing as I would drink it down, I would stop at the aid station and put in ice and more water. So it became more diluted to the point where I didn't have any more because I was waiting to get to the special needs bags to get another one, Roctane and the Right Stuff. But I planned ahead and carried a Right Stuff in my pocket. So I stopped at an aid station because obviously my pace was slower getting to the special needs bag. So I needed to get that Right Stuff in there. And I knew it. I just felt my focus going. I just felt something was off. So I just stopped right there. I poured the Right Stuff in the remaining water I had, took a sip, and then at the next aid station, filled it up again. So that's just thinking ahead.
Yeah, I think you did a really good job on the run. I think that's where I missed a bit, was the sodium on the run. Like I had 4 Right Stuff packets in the bike and some on the run, and it wasn't enough because I think I told you I lost, roughly 11 pounds on the race course, it's a lot of pounds to lose in one day, in like 12 hours of racing. And that was the sickest I've ever been after any race. I was like in a fetal position by the hedges for like a solid 2 hours after the race. So it clearly I was not okay. And so I think that was the salt. I missed the mark this time.
But that's the adjusting of the plan. That's just
exactly.
like, okay, well, next time. And it's not like, you just up it up a little bit. You don't have to like.
No, I don't need to have.
overboard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just, and it's humid. The difference is humidity. So now I know humidity. Yeah. I just race differently in it. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So, what do they call? What do they say? Dovetailing. Is that a dove? Is this the right use of this word?
Sure,
dovetailing. Dovetailing on that. I might use it again if we decide that was correct. From Bobby, another team yogi triathlete athlete. So dovetailing on that, adjustments to nutrition, which I think you just kind of talked to, which is really about feel, right? Like you gotta train with feel as well, because there's nothing on a watch that's going to tell you, hey, when your stomach goes this way, this is what you need. And I think developing that feel, and BJ's like reaching for the mic because he's so passionate about feel, but hold on, let me get the rest of Bobby's question. Okay, adjustments to nutrition, race plan, and mindset with the humidity specifically. So Beej, take it away on the feel piece.
Oh, I can go and feel all day long. What happens when your watch and computer and things just don't work? You gotta have that relationship with feel. And I know Bobby experienced this when I think something happened with his bike computer, from what I remember, and he had to go on feel. So it's that trust, it's that gut feeling of like, is this enough? So it asks you to really get honest with yourself. And I think that's the lesson I learned. He's talking about preparation for the race. St. George derailed me. It was an atrocious performance. I had fun, I smiled, and I had a great time, but it's not what I am capable of. So I really took that to heart and made adjustments. And I was gifted the opportunity to go to the Pura Vida Cycling Challenge, and Jennifer introduced us to the Right Stuff, and that was a game changer. And it was only cycling, and we weren't doing all the other things, but I was able to climb, and day after day, after doing an Ironman the week before, Jennifer too. So I took that into practice, into my training, and then right away, all my big rides on Saturday and runs were like, the Right Stuff was incorporated into that. And I was starting to run really strong in training off of a 6-hour ride. So I practiced, I adjusted, and then I even took more in for this race. So the preparation to adjust to the humidity and heat here started well before we got here into Kona. It started weeks before. So it really started after St. George when I was derailed. In Maui, Maui was a good experience to have mentally, because Bobby did ask about the mental component. And I've said this, I don't think I've shared it here, but years ago, going into an Ironman, not doing as much training volume as I had in the past, doing yoga twice a day for 90 minutes, meditating, chilling out, being in this peaceful, calm, silent environment was not in my wheelhouse. But now I don't see any other way, because it really brought me down in a way that I was calm. So we would have wake up and have a morning yoga practice. Oh, it was a yoga retreat. I call it a yoga and meditation retreat. But it's a full immersion. So you're in this resort that's just dedicated and isolated for this experience. And you can go off into town down the road if you wanted to. And I did a little bit of training, but the sole purpose was to really just dive in and get uncomfortable. I did a dance. I participated in the dance with all of you. That was fun. And really tapped into this, the power from within, I call it, like this calmness, the power that comes from the calm. It doesn't have to be so efforting all the time. So this, for a full week leading into Kona beforehand, was just it was so served up perfectly for this experience. And I took a lot of that with me. And I don't know if you want to talk about that now, but the Eho Mai and Makamai, they had this local woman come in and share some history of the land, of the Hawaiian culture. And she had this amazing voice, and she brought us all into this song, I'll call it. It was a song. And it was about, I'm going to butcher it a little bit here, but it was Eho Mai was like the chorus. And we went through all the soundings together with everybody in the group, and we actually sang it with her. And it was just like you're calling on the power of the island gods. You're pulling that into yourself. You're asking to receive it, the knowledge, the wisdom, the power. And I use that relentlessly on race day. It was one of my mantras. And they say when you go into the energy lab, it will either give you energy or it will suck your energy away. And I feel like I was actually given a little bit of energy to come out, because there's this really long hill to come out, and I ran the whole thing. Got a little emotional on the turnaround. And then out to the main road, and I was able to pick it up. So I actually felt like I had asked for the energy, and I actually received it. So circling back to that retreat, Bobby, it's a really good time to go in and strengthen that relationship with your thoughts and beliefs, and really get clear on what it is you want. Because when things get challenging on that run, and they are going to get challenging on that run, how do you pull yourself out from your default, which is to slow down, walk, and be in misery? And so I use those tools.
And this actually goes into another question from Sandyman. And I'm going to send it over to you, Jennifer, because Sandyman says, training in Arizona, how did that help you adjust to the climate in Hawaii where it's super hot and humid? And Bobby was also talking about, the race plan, the mindset, the nutrition with all the humidity. So coming from dry desert climate and you weren't on Maui for a week. You did get here some days early, but yeah, how did that all translate for you, and adjustments that you had to make on race day?
Yeah, I think I didn't make adjustments, which I learned that I should have made adjustments because I've never really raced in humidity before. But heat, I know. I know heat well, and actually BJ and I, we both qualified in Coeur d'Alene, that 104-degree day for Kona. And I get a lot of energy from the heat. Like, I love it. Like, I love being on the trails. I really enjoy being in the heat. And it was 104 my last run I had in Arizona before I left here. So like, it wasn't like I had any cool weather coming in. And actually, I used that when I was leading up to the energy lab, and I wasn't feeling awesome. I was already on plan like C at that point of like what my pacing was going to be. And I was like, a hill. Great. I love hills. I love heat. Like, I know how to do this. I just know how to do this. And so I think I never find heat intimidating. I didn't care what the temperature was going to be. Like, I knew it was going to be a hot day. Doesn't matter to me. The day will serve me what will serve. And I know that I can excel in like whatever those conditions are. And so like, I wasn't ever, like, Kona never scared me. I was nervous. I was excited, but I wasn't like, oh man, I'm so nervous about this race. I was like, it's just, it'll be what it'll be. And so I think that helped. Knowing what I can do in the heat helps release that a little bit. But that's also like how I go into a race as far as mindset is just the day will be what the day will bring. And I was telling Jess this earlier that I really love this island. There's something like really powerful and intense about this island. And I think the intense energy here, and most people, I haven't heard people discuss this as like why people have bad races here, but I think the intensity of the energy, if you don't know how to let it move through you, it just gets stuck in you. And I think that if you don't know how to release it, you end up walking on the Queen K for many, many hours. And obviously there's other things that can happen too, but I think just it's so intense and it is so activated in all the athletes around you. Like the energy here is intense. Like there's just a lot happening with people around, with the island. I mean, there's a volcano that's active, underneath our feet. Like this just all this like deep power coming from like underneath the earth up in us. And I felt that and I was really aware of it. And so the day before I went to meditation, I asked the island like to serve me up this like a transformational experience. I didn't realize, like, you asked for that. And then when you're in it, you're like, God, this sucks. Like, this is really hard. And so, my head, I had thought about what I would do in those really deeply hard moments. And that's easy. It's much easier to do that when you're like sitting in this, like, lotus pose, like on a lava rock in the ocean than it is on the Queen K at mile 16, going in the energy lab, feeling the worst you've ever felt in an Ironman before. And so my day and my mindset in the thick of it became, just don't walk, just go forward, and just go back to that over and over again. And in my training, I try to do the same thing is just go forward and use what's around. So it was a really hard day that I asked for.
Yeah, I have done that as well. And you may learn quickly that don't necessarily need to say, universe, bring it on, because she's going to bring it on no matter what. And yeah, with transformation, like comes pain and suffering. And we need that. We need it to grow. Beej and I were talking, I think before we left for Hawaii, and I was like, could you imagine if everything we wanted just worked out the way we wanted it? We would be so bored. We would be miserable. Like we need that strain. We need the pressure. So you had just mentioned like the intensity and the energy, and like if you don't know how to let it move through you, how do you let it move through you? What are some things like when you're feeling all of that, like, oh my God, this is like a lot, because it is a lot. There was thousands and thousands of people here on this island, and like you said, there's a volcano under our feet. Like there's a lot going on energetically. So what do you do to allow things to just move through?
So I pick animals ahead of time before a race that I want to like feel a part of. So I've had breathing issues the last multiple races I've done where I like can't breathe in the start of the swim and I have to like stop for like minutes on end to catch my breath. And it's been very frustrating. I didn't want that to happen in this race. So the first animal was like a sea turtle, or like super calm and chill. And then I allowed myself to become like a dolphin. And if I needed to, I had like a shark in the background, but I never the swim was very beautiful. I never felt like I needed to be like a shark and like really like aggro my way through it. And then I call my bike Dragon. She's a dragon, and I'm very connected to her. And so I always think of dragons flying next to me, or horses I use for this one as well. And then for the run, I wear a hot pink like cheetah outfit is my kit. And so of course, cheetah is my animal. And I just use, like, I try to tap into the really strong energy of those animals and like bring them into like how. And so when I feel if the energy in this instance becomes really intense, I let it move through me, but then I let it through the animal. So it's near me and around me, but it isn't like stuck inside of me. And it's just a way to like transmute it out. Because when you're racing, it's hard. I can go in, but like only so much, because there's so many of my other like senses are having to, especially on a bike, are having to use to stay safe and to think, and like you're online. And so if I can like quickly transmute it out somewhere else, it can be with me without me having to be, okay, let me move it through like all my chakras and then up through my crown. Like that's too, I can't get there when I race like I can in other parts, but the animals have helped me a lot to that. But yeah. I set that up ahead of time. I use that in training, and I like think I have spent a whole day thinking through like, how am I going to use this? What animals are going to be with me? How is that going to work? So it's like already, I already know what to do. So race day is just like, it's like another pedal stroke.
Yeah, exactly. So you're training with these kind of visualizations with these animals. And the thing about animals, nature in general, as opposed to humans who have free will, animals, nature, plants, the ocean, all of that, it does really well because it exists within divine law, within universal law. But because we have free will, which comes with the ego, which carries our free will, right? We also have mental preferences, so we push against things. We don't just allow things to be as they are. We think that they should be another way, or we want to go to Kona for years and years and years, and we qualify and we get here, and then we don't want the heat. And so to channel something like that from nature is, I always channel like trees, like just like how the trunk is like super strong and rooted, but all the branches are very relaxed and they just kind of hang off a really strong core. And for me, that core is that deep calm. So nature and animals, they all do really well because they don't have these egos, which are those me centers of the brain. And they just fall in line with universal law. And so, nature is there to teach us how to just let things move. Like the ocean wasn't complaining that there was thousands of people in it peeing and, like spitting and swimming and all of that. And, the lava fields don't complain about how hot they are. They just are. They just are. So I love that. That's beautiful. Okay. We're going to move on to Jason. Had some questions, and this came through you, Jennifer. So weather conditions, I think you guys had slightly different, I think if we get in there, we'll see that there were some slightly different weather conditions on race day. And how did they factor into the race? And I think we've kind of talked about that. I think maybe nutritionally, Jennifer, you could have taken some more sodium in, but let's start with you, Jennifer. What were the conditions on race day? Wind, heat, classic Kona? Was there anything kind of off the norm of what we would typically see at a Kona race?
Yeah, I think the difference is, the winds were there, but they were not, I didn't find them very substantially, I never had to get out aero on the descent from Hawi, which is my definition of if it's too windy and I can't descend really fast, I have to get out of my hoods, on my hoods, then that makes it windy. St. George was significantly windier, especially for the women, because we went later in the day than here, significantly different. And so I think the rest of it was pretty classic Kona. The heat was to be expected. And yeah, I think I had slightly different days, but nothing, I think, too substantial.
No, I didn't feel the so-called winds at all. I felt one gust maybe push me from the side, but nothing from what they talk about. And the heat, I definitely felt humidity, but I felt like I had, 50, 60% cloud cover, I want to say, on the ride. But as we were talking about earlier, the sun did pop out as you got past, heading back to town, and it definitely popped out on the highway there. And it was like an oven. I can see what people talk about when it's like that for the whole race. That would most certainly make it more challenging. Not to say I wasn't sweating and dripping sweat and soaked and doing heat management, every time I hit an aid station. But I don't think, and I could be wrong, maybe other people could chime in or have different opinion, but I don't feel it was typical of those extreme conditions. I felt like we were pretty blessed. Even on the swim, I mean, the swim was cloud cover for most of it too. I felt was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you did have 4 guys break under 8 hours. Or, no, break their course record. I mean, it was a crazy day yesterday. Just all the way around, the energy of the men's race was out of this world. It was incredible.
But what's interesting, because we talk about momentum here a lot, like people were talking about it before, like the momentum of like course records are going to be broken. What is possible for the Norwegians to do? And then Sam Lalo gets in this, it all gets carried up in this momentum. So how did it actually happen? Did we create it and build this energetic vibration to give us a day to do that? Or, was it just fate? I like to think that the intentions of people, everybody got on board, and it was like, the universe was like, okay, here's a good day.
I think so. I mean, I think Kelly O'Mara wrote this great piece this morning covering the men's race, but her point was like there's a new era of triathlon and people are racing different, and they have to because the caliber of athletes have increased because of the Norwegians, but everybody's doing it too. Like everybody's taking chances. People are risking more. People are going harder from the start. Like all those things you assume were true of Kona, like rookies can't win it. Like you can't be young to win it. I mean, all those things. You can't break the course records the first time. All that was shattered yesterday. And I think that energy, same with the women's race. You got Chelsea, like so many things happened differently this time around that I think it just really, I think Kona was different this time in a really like fascinating, incredible way, and so honored to be a part of it. But it'd be curious to see like how this changes the dynamics of the race going forward. And I think, triathlon isn't always going to be the Dave and Mark Hill. Like there's going to be like the Gustav Eden Hill when he passed, Matt Layla. Like I think we're finally ushering a new era of like heroes into the sport too. And that happened yesterday and Thursday.
I almost want to think like the time away from this race got people, at least this is my hope, got people to think about how valuable like every moment and race and experience is, and that it really pushed some athletes to the point of like, I'm going to just go have fun with it. I've heard people talk about going out and having fun with their experience, and it sort of relieves that pressure of having to like perform, firm grip. It's more like, I'm just going to go out and do my thing, and I'm going to give my best effort. And I think the years away from this race maybe served up this delicious, opportunity for people to just crush it, knock it out of the park.
And also, it was the most supportive Ironman I've ever been a part of. Like in the race competitors, like it was not just the spectators, but like the people you were racing with. Like I was having an incredibly hard time, like up that last hill. And the woman that I know from races just came up, put her hand on my back and was like, hey, we got this. Let's just go. Like just really, there's a lot of beautiful moments like that where in normal Ironman, like especially at the top, like you're racing for something. And like, I wasn't racing for anything. I was just enjoying Kona, and so many people were out there doing that. And just the kindness, the compassion, the like, we're all in this together. We're all suffering together was on a whole other level here than I've ever experienced. And it's like my favorite part of the sport, and even like the top leaders for the pros, everybody, like it just shows our sport is really one of community. It's just a really community-based sport, and to see it all play out on the biggest stage was beautiful.
It was really cool to be here in person. I mean, I just love the excellence. I love to watch the mastery, physical, and there are a few who have it mentally as well. And just beautiful to see that. All of it, right? Like even the people that were going up Polani and just like screaming, I saw that several times. And they're going to learn somewhere along the line how to take that and instead of emoting it, use that actually to power them up the hill from a place of calm, which is invincibility. And okay, so let's keep going here. Liz has a great question about what in your training prepared you the most for Kona. So either kind of a general thing or maybe one workout where you were like, oh man, I'm so glad I did that workout.
Yeah, I think two things were very beneficial for this course. One, having patience, and that is, if you follow me, that weekly long ride I do up this mountain of 5,000 feet. It takes an hour to climb, over an hour to climb, and it's just being patient, climb, grind it out. And that really came into play because there's some hills here. They're not as steep as Palomar or as long, but you got to be patient and you got to work it because you've got a whole these hills come on the way out mostly, and on the way back, you got to have some energy in order to really use your fitness. And then the second thing was that one ride I did on Fiesta. I did a workout of 3 by 30 minutes in TT. It's all flat, big circle. I think it's like 5 miles, 4 miles. But the winds, it's about the winds. And so these winds were like in my face. I remember doing it with Daniel, and we were just like, one side of it, you're just going so slow because the wind is in your face, but it forces you to stay in aero, and it forces you to do exactly what we did when we got out of Hawaii. Because in my opinion, it's like game on when you go down there. And I was being patient, wait till 80, because you leave Hawaii at 60. So there's still 20 miles in there, and I just said, be patient. And actually I was gifted with a flat tire in that space. So it actually was like, slow down, chill, like take the pedal off. But after mile 80, I was in aero, I would say most of the whole section back to town. So those 2 sessions really were important.
Yeah, I think it was actually Pura Vida. So we had our Pura Vida challenge was in September, 3 weeks before this race. And day 2 is our longest day. It's almost 100 miles, like 10,000 feet of climbing. And it was really hot, and I had climbed, and we come back to town, you go through this hole, and you go up this like 20% grade, and it's my least favorite part of the whole trip. And it's like, you go through town, it's like a 6% like grade with rollers, just traffic. And I felt awful, and I almost got in the truck before the hole, and I was like, screw it, like, I'll just do it. And I felt like I was gonna vomit for an hour and a half, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna peg my heart rate at 155, and whatever I ride is what I ride. And I actually rode like really well back, and I was like, a couple of times I gagged off my bike, and I was like, you know what, my special gift in life is I can peg my heart rate at 155 and just keep going. And that 90 minutes was basically like, that's what prepared me for mile 10 to mile 26 of the run. It was just, I'm going to peg my heart rate at 150, and what I run is what I run. And I can just, damn it, I will just do this all day. Like, this is what it's my special gift is I can just do this all day. Even though it hurts, even though I feel like I'm going to vomit, I will just do this, and I will finish it, and I will be done, and I will be happy that I did it. And so that one section there, and when I was doing it, I was like, I think I'm really going to be glad I did this in Kona. And the run, I was like, I'm really glad I did that in Kona, because it's, a reminder that I can do that for as long as it takes. I can do that.
Yeah, I know that hole. I was in the truck for that hole, and it was crazy even driving up out of the hole in Costa Rica. So I'm going to go back to Jason, and thank you, Liz, for that question. That was awesome. Jason, he wants to know how you guys prepared mentally for the race.
I've been preparing for this race for 16 years. When I first had that initial attempt at working to qualify. And so I always knew that I could achieve this and I would finish it. But then you get down to the actual day-to-day work with the mind, and that comes with morning meditation, first thing, sitting still in silence, sifting and sorting through the thoughts, understanding that there's a space between stimulus and response, and that as I race more in this mode of being present and aware of these thoughts, I practice it more often. So it's not that I don't struggle on race day. It's not like I'm, it's just a walk, a cakewalk. So I have my moments, but I have the tools necessary to pull myself out of it. So many times I use the tools, which is focus on your breath, focus on a mantra, focus on something that's happening now, and not get too far ahead of yourself. I remember looking at these guys up there walking, and immediately just was like, stop looking at them walking. Come back to what are you doing? Like, and Bob, our meditation teacher, was like, you've already done it. Like you've already got it inside. Like you've already done it. So go there. Stay within yourself. And I kept pulling myself back to myself. So mentally, you got to do the work before you get to race day. The mental reps over and over and over and over again. And I hear this from athletes a lot, where they'll stop doing meditation because it's just not working for them, or their mind's very busy. That is the practice. That right there is your training. When the mind gets busy and it doesn't want to sit there, you want to look at your phone, get on email, like that is the practice. That's the very thing that happens when you're on the run at mile 20 and you just want to walk. It's that thought that says walk, and it's the other thought that says you don't really need to walk. You have no intestinal issues and you have no pain, like real serious pain happening. That is the decision. I mean, that's actually what happened to me on race day. There were moments of like, you're just going to walk when you get to the light. I'm like, why am I going to walk when I get to the light? The light's up there. I'm not feeling anything. Like, so I kept pushing further along. So that is the practice. The mind, the body will follow the mind. But the thing is, the mind isn't in control. You are in control. You can manage that mind and the thoughts that come up if you practice in advance. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just started meditating really because I've listened to the podcast for so long and gotten to know Jess, and so it's been practicing for about 6 months now, and it's made a huge difference in my life and in my racing. And I think the biggest difference is prior, I would say that I haven't not been mindful. I have, and I would race in that. But when you're racing, because you're requiring so much of every part of your body, it becomes so much harder to get to that space. And without the practice before, like it has to be like, we need that groove in our system, a well-worn groove of going to meditate every day that you can get back to when everything else is like, when, is your body hurts and your legs hurt and this hurts, like so much is screaming at you that you need to have like a deeply worn groove. Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to find it in that. It's really hard to get to that space. And so, I had a similar experience on the run where like I was on plan like F at that point. And basically what it came down to is like, you will not walk. And so I walked the aid stations to like cool off and stuff, but I would, will not walk because that's like, I'm going to walk. And I was like, well, right. Like, how do I really feel? Like, I feel like if I walk, I will be really disappointed in myself, because there's nothing else going on. Like, it's going to hurt no matter what. And it's just going back to the groove, like, how do I really feel? I really feel it's totally fine to keep moving forward in a run pace. Like, there's no other reason not to do this. Like, me as my being can do this. The rest is just all physical nonsense at this point. But I wouldn't have been able to get to that place without that, like, worn groove that I've developed over the last 6 months. Because that writes the chatter. Like, if you can't break through the chatter of your mind every day when you're not being physically taxed for 11 hours on a race course, you're not going to be able to do it on 11th hour of the race course. You have to do it in the time before and the time before. And you have to really set your intentions. Even on the bike, I was having a great swim. I had a great bike. I had a great 8 miles of the run. And I was like, oh, this is so easy to go inside myself. This is great. I'm so present right now. And I was. But then it's when things get really difficult. That's where you need that groove.
Yeah, and our teacher always talks about, as far as mental preparation, he talks about like you can go out there and you can dig a lot of small holes, but what he teaches us to do is just go back to the same hole every day, same thing, dig, 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 and that hole. For me, and I think the basis of what Yogi Triathlete was born on, and certainly Awake Athlete, is the meditation. Because if the meditation is the base, you'll find that you're not like seeking the next book on mental training. You're not going out and trying to do all these things to sharpen your skills, because everything gets taken care of when you sit down and you get still and you don't move and you close your eyes and you don't speak for a certain amount of moments every day. And it doesn't matter how many moments that is. And Jennifer, like, probably the first time you and I met to talk about this, like, I'm sure I said to you, like, I don't care if you meditate for 45 minutes or 30 seconds, do it every day. Every single day, go out there and dig in that same hole, because you'll get to the core where everything you need is. And it doesn't matter if you're at mile 1 or you're at mile 139, like you'll have that. I love how you talked about like that deep groove. There'll be a part of you that's always sitting in that deep groove. So you'll always have the tools. You're not, trying to find some semblance of peace or calm, because there's a part of you that's been rooted in that day after day after day, and that goes with you naturally on race day. And I can promise you that that is only going to get better. It's amazing.
Yeah, and because I've raced a lot without this, and so like I think the big difference is, if you can allow yourself, it's all about resistance. If you cannot resist what is happening to you, if you not be frustrated that you're not having like whatever expectations you have, like if you let that go, the movement becomes easier. Like your body has to resist less, your mind is resisting less, like you can allow that to go. And it's not like you do it at mile 20 and then like you're great for the next 6 miles. That's not how it works. It's actually like a constant coming back. But in those moments of being like, oh, I'm just going to release this, you get a little bit lighter and then it comes back. And it's that constant move. But like the difference would be resisting for 146 miles, all these things happening around me, versus allowing it to move through me and just moving through it. Like it's a totally different experience as like what race is like. And I think there's a reason why I'm more recovered the days after, even mentally more recovered. Like it was one of the hardest races I've ever done, but I feel like I could go race tomorrow if my body would allow me to. Where before I'd be like, oh man, I need a month to mentally before I could do a hard effort again. I don't feel that way anymore at all after the meditation.
Brilliant. I love it. Jason, thank you for these great questions. We're going to stick with his final question here. The second part of it is about course correction. Like, did you have to adjust? Did you have to course correct? And that's kind of a common theme with a lot of these questions. And I think the answer is yes. Like that is what race day is all about. And that's why you want to be mentally preparing yourself every morning, wake, pee, meditate, and also dialing in that feel, not always relying on data, so that course correction is not a surprise. It's just a natural thing that you expect and that you're really good at. That answer is just always going to be yes, because we've got that as a second question to a lot of these questions. So that answer is always yes. But I love this here because it is important to go in with a plan. But it's also that ability to let go of that plan and flow and course correct and all that stuff. But per discipline, did you guys have a strategy? Like what was your swim like? Or I would use the idea of like, what did you visualize, or how did you want your swim to feel? Or what was your plan for the swim, the bike, and the run?
And then how it was executed, or how we had to course correct?
Yeah, the answer to that is kind of like, yeah, you had to course correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, swim was pretty uneventful. I took, I usually go to the outside, but Jennifer said on Thursday that she did the same thing and found some room and space and had a great swim. So I just stuck with that and got around as quickly as possible. I thought I swam faster, but I was just happy oh my God, it was just tough not to just stop and look all around. But I kept moving. One thought was like the Body Glove boat, like is Body Glove still like in business? Like, I have no idea. The bike, I had to course correct. I got a flat tire. So I'm looking back at it now, and I was so calm. Like, I kind of just went through the steps of doing it, of changing the tire and getting it done. And 2 people had not stopped, but they rode by and said, "You have everything you need," which again talks to the community. And I was totally fine. Got back on the bike and got through it, and didn't really have to do any course correction after that. I had the intention of going easy for the first 80 miles and then picking it up. And then on the run, yeah, much course correction, like constant course correction. First of all, going way too fast to start. Like I felt like amazing. I was like, this is awesome. Like if I can run 8:15 to 8:45 for the whole race, this is great. And I can manage this. As soon as we got out on the Queen K, it was a different story. That's where it really, well, you do have that first downhill on the Queen K, but then after that, it was like, oh, how long is this? I don't remember the airport where they actually let me in this far. But it was constant course correction, managing the moments, managing the mind, noticing what we just talked about, the dissatisfaction of the pace that you see and how the mind wants to not even run close to that if it can't hit the pace that you have expected. So it's a dissatisfaction with what is. And that's when you quickly turn it to allowing this to be the pace. And what I did in Santa Cruz was just stop looking at the watch. Stop looking at it. Stop looking at it. Just go on feel. You know you're running as hard as you can if you're running as hard as you can. So yeah, there was constant management. And even up until the final mile stretch when Amy Height was running alongside me with her camera and she was videoing it, and she's like, just make sure you soak up this finish. And I was like, oh yeah, I've been so like focused on getting to the finish. I got to remember, like, really, really capture this moment. So there was constant course correction. But again, if you don't have the tools to be aware of those thoughts and those moments, then it's going to constantly be an uphill battle.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I'm not digging the course correction, like the terminology. I think it's more like the realization of what the day is that's being brought to you. Like, I have an idea of what I think the day should look like. And then I think it's the realization that, like, that's not actually the day that's before me. That's not what the universe is like serving up to me today. And so I always have a plan going into races, and the swim was great. I had no issues breathing, which was amazing. I swam wide. I had the strongest Ironman swim I've ever had, not time-wise, but like I felt strong. And if you factor in the waves, I think it probably would have been time-wise. My bike, perfectly executed. I like to gain a lot of free speed, so I work a lot in aero. I was able to get lots of free speed. Really good bike split. Watts were way down, like perfect. And then the run, I just, at some point in the race, was having such a good day, made the assumption the rest of my run would carry through. And so it's funny, I had no expectations going into the race. I developed expectations while racing, and then I was disappointed in those expectations while on the run. And I definitely laughed at myself a lot in that experience. So like, Jennifer, you went in with no expectations, and now you put them on yourself, and now you're upset. And so I think it wasn't so much like course correction, but yeah, I got into the Queen K, and I was like, okay, we're just, no more watches. We're just running as hard as we can. And then eventually it was not walking. And it was like, this is just the day that's in front of me. Like, I just have to accept that this is what the day is. And, you know, here we go. And I'll fuel and I'll keep on moving forward and just be with what the day is supposed to be. And it's not what I thought would be. And that's totally fine. It's the day that I needed to have.
Let's stay with kind of this idea of, you know, moments that were challenging. Tracy, who is our live audience today, say, hey, Trace.
Hey.
She's prepping us for our live event, which is going to be a week from now at Canyon Bikes. This actually will post after that event happens, but hopefully all the local people in San Diego know about it and they came. But anyway, Trace had a question, and it also kind of plays into River had a question that came from Jennifer. Thank you, River. Thanks, Trace. Want to know, like, what was the most challenging, like, mentally? What was a mentally trying moment? And what did you do in that moment to work through it?
Do you know yours?
I do, yeah. So I think, so usually when I do Ironmans, I've always been at like the tippy end of the race because, you know, I was able to qualify to get here. I'm used to being top 10 in my age group. I'm used to being in the front of races. Like I'm used to having really good races. And it was unbelievably humbling to be passed by so many people on the run course who are having good days and bad days, but it's just the level of athletes here is so high, and it's amazing. But like, it's certainly like, it really challenges the ego, like just to be passed by, like, you know, hundreds of people continuously on the Queen K. I haven't experienced that. And that was certainly something like to work through and just be okay with it. Like, I can still be proud of myself that this is what I'm doing. And that maybe their suffering looks different than mine. And that's totally okay. It was really like, there's a lot of work there with the ego and like how I viewed myself as an athlete in those last 6 miles of the race, for sure.
Well, that ego just wants to keep us separate in comparison. And I felt that on the run too. I really looked around and I'm like, I'm not used to seeing this few people out here on the run. And as I started to come back, I'm like, there's even fewer people heading out. When normally, I'm, like you said, at least in a pack, like I can feel people coming back. I felt like I was at the tail end. I was at the tail end of this race.
But just to be clear, you still raced it in a really great time. Like that's
Right.
like I got we were both sub 12. Like in any other Ironman, we would be like near the front of the race. It's just it got desolate out there.
It did, and it wasn't so real as when we did the turnaround in the energy lab, and there was nobody at the furthest turnaround except a little GoPro on a tripod. There was no human being whatsoever around, and you go do this turnaround, and you're basically out there at the furthest point, all by yourself. But yeah, so that was really challenging of the ego, and then of course the bike packs on the bike, just getting passed by 7, 8 like cyclists that would just move into this pace line. And part of me was like, I should get on the back at least and hold. And part of me just didn't want to be any part of it. So I actually just eased up. Normally I would try and get into that, keep the space, but then go past the group. But this time I just stayed in the back. But then when we got to 80 miles, it was game on. It was like, I'm going to pass 6 people at once. Yeah. And it was like, okay. So it was a patience game. But that ego just, it can really wreak havoc on your happiness.
Yes. That's why you got to train the ego. And when we train it, which is like what you guys are doing out there, we can read about training the ego and we can journal in our journals about training the ego, but you're training the ego when you're typically at the front of the pack and you're getting passed by hundreds of people. You're training the ego when a peloton goes by you at a world championship and the ego is saying like, hello, cheaters, like what's happening? And it doesn't matter what they're doing. It doesn't matter what they're doing because that comparison energy is the lower self. It needs you to be less than or more than. And that's going to keep you in suffering. And it's either going to keep you on top or on the bottom. And so, so as we train the mind, we kind of chill in the patient zone. And in the end, we win. Okay. So speaking of winning, Julia, another Team Yogi Triathlete athlete, and Trace had similar questions about what was highlight of the day. I typically don't do the 2-part question, but I'm going to do it. So I'm going to trust that you guys remember this. And because they could be the same thing. Highlight of the day and also the day where you just felt the strongest mentally, physically, emotionally.
So my highlight was my parents and my daughter were here to see me, and we have a place on Aloha at Mile 2, and so they had chalked it. She had a sign for me. She was full Ironman gear, so it was always a highlight when I get to see my daughter, and I ran by and I kissed her, and it was just amazing. And she's really proud of me for being here, and she saw me qualify in Coeur d'Alene. She knows it's been my dream for a really long time, and so it's just an honor to share a dream with her, but to also show her that dreams take a lot of work and a lot of consistency and patience and time. And she sees how hard I work for my dreams. And so I just love that she can share this experience with me. And what was the other one? Sorry.
See, this is what happens with 2-part questions.
Failed. I know. It's as a podcaster, you should never ask 2-part questions. When you felt the strongest?
Oh, always on the bike. That's my biggest strength. I had so much fun on the bike. I really, especially that back after the turn from Javi, when people were not having a great day, I was having a really good day. And then the women went, and by that time the faster guys had caught up to us. And so I pace lined back with a lot of the quicker dudes and just caught onto the train in a legal space. Just to be clear. But although I did motor pace behind a semi truck because they had trucks on it for a good 10 miles. It was a fantastic placement of a semi truck. So besides that, that was a lot of fun. So I felt really strong and confident, always on a bike. I love being on my bike.
What was the first question?
Oh my God, are you serious? Here's the question again. It's 2 parts. That's it. Just one. And then there's a second part. And the first part is, what was the highlight of the day? So just work with that for now, and then I'll ask you the second part.
Oh, man, the highlight. Okay, highlight of the day, the full day. I think coming down the finishing chute, I'm seeing it right now, giving high fives and stopping to just give thanks to the I was thinking this in my mind, thanks to Mike Riley, thanks to the crowds, thanks to all the people that got me here, thanks to this spirit that's within me that has allowed me to achieve more than I ever thought possible. So the appreciation and gratitude was like so high there. And to come across that line, which I've seen people come across years after year after year, to finally be there myself was pretty special. Yeah.
Part 2. When did you feel the strongest, mentally, emotionally, spiritually?
By far, it was back from Javi. Like, I got my nutrition. I got past that little, maybe a mile out. And then it was like game on. I was cruising so fast. And then I got a flat tire. So that was like, whew, okay, I can become fast again. I changed it, and I just held that for so. I was literally saying to myself, I'm having so much fun. This is so awesome. And I didn't feel like we talked about this not having high watts. I wasn't pushing a lot of watts. I felt like I was just, this momentum, whatever it is, was carrying me down, and I was flying past people, and it was like picking people off. That's when I was just, I felt invincible.
Yeah, I think a key, like for cycling and arrows, you have to be really patient to stay in arrow like that and to hold the line. And that was, of course, maybe not so much, it was patience for pacing, but if you could be patient and know how to really be tucked in arrow for long periods of time, it was huge. And it was a lot of fun to do that.
The ego liked that,
The ego had so much fun on the bike.
It's okay to let the ego kind of stick its head out the window and get some fresh air and have some fun and heckle. It's fine. Just stay in control of it. Okay, what was the most unexpected? This is another one from Julia. What was the most unexpected part of your race experience? How did you navigate it?
So I think mine was the happy unexpected. You always hear about Kona. I have wanted to be in Kona since I was like a little girl. I didn't really know it at the time, but like that's when the voice started inside. And I was, part of me is like, well, maybe I've built it up so much it won't be as awesome. It is so much more awesome than I thought it would be. It's just like for 3 days in this little island in the Pacific, triathlon is the most important thing in the whole world to everybody that you're around. And I love the sport so much. And to just be like in that energy of like everybody has sacrificed to be there. We've tried. I mean, like nobody got here to Kona by accident. Like we've tried so hard. And I think everybody is so grateful and in so much joy and in awe of just being here that it is an experience that it's way more amazing than I thought it was going to be.
Most unexpected moment. This is when I'm in the mind. Yeah. Don't get in the mind. Yeah. I think, as I was climbing out of the energy lab up to that hill and I saw Hillary, I didn't think I would see anybody out there. And I was about to break down, like really break down. I've been thinking about Mary and my mom, but I didn't share that with Hillary. And she just, if you know her, she's just so strong. She emotes this like strength and power. And I pulled myself together and ran pretty strong out of that energy lab. And then she caught me on that little stretch out and back. And I said, I got this. So that was probably the most close to being emotional that I got, besides now, during that race. Yeah, it was pretty. It was a growth moment for sure.
Yeah, if you don't know who we're talking about, it's Hillary Biscay, Ironman legend, professional triathlete for a long time. And we are so blessed to actually, she's kind of like almost a neighbor. She lives in our town. And our friend Mary, if you're new to this podcast, really traumatically and tragically left this earth in February of 2021. And she was one of BJ's biggest champions. I know a lot of people who listen to this podcast. Jennifer, you knew her as well. Tracy, you knew her as well. She was a great connector, amazing woman, really strong. And she was a huge champion getting BJ to this island. Like she she did so much for him. And then also his mom. So both of these beautiful women no longer on this earth, but very much present. And Mary was Hillary's athlete, and also very dear to her as well. So yeah, that was beautiful, beautiful moment. And yeah, Hillary is she's like that big, strong tree, right? Like that's just so rooted and amazing. So blessed to have these wonderful people in our life on this earth and not on this earth. So, hey, let's just pull upon that emotional string here, Beej. Got a question for you from Linda, Chef Linda of the Awake Kitchen with Yogi Triathlete. Any signs of your mom out there on the race course?
Yeah, 100%. On a Leahy Drive, about 2 miles out, people put chalk messages and notes on the road, and there was a big heart in yellow, and it had TG, which is my mom's initials.
Yellow is joy.
Yellow is joy. So I thought about her at that moment. So that might have been another short emotional moment, but I knew it was just a sign to keep going and get my butt moving.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, let's keep going. Tracy, we're starting to round this out here, people. This has been very efficient. I like that. Okay, I've got a question actually just for you, Jennifer, and then we're going to wrap it up into kind of these final moments of the race and takeaway words, things like that. But you are also recently plant-based. I love how you just dive into the deep end. You're like, meditate every day and I'm not going to eat animals anymore. And those two things kind of go hand in hand because you just start to tap into this kind of fierce gentleness within you. And when you start getting into that real high vibration within you, you just want to feed your body with high vibrational things as well. So this comes from Karen, who's a killer athlete on our team with Kona Dreams. So let's all give her some good love for Ironman Arizona because I would love to see Karen here next year. She wants to know what brought you to plant-based eating. And then, of course, anything else you want to share about it, things that you've noticed. We'd love to hear that as well.
Yeah, I'm not a toe in the water kind of person. So when I go in, I just go all in in everything. So I became plant-based after the Pura Vida Cycling Challenge when I had spent that week with you guys. And I was vegetarian for about 12 years in my 20s. And stopped, and then was having just couldn't figure out, I wasn't recovering well, I wasn't feeling well, I had tried all these different things, and then spending that week with you in Costa Rica, I was like, oh, well, I haven't tried, why don't I just go plant-based like that? I didn't even think of that. That's so ridiculous. Why haven't I thought of that? And so after that trip, I did. And instantly GI issues cleared up, recovery was fast, inflammation was down, and I just felt so much better. Just spiritually, physically, everything was up level just significantly. And so this was my first, I did the extreme triathlon. I did an extreme triathlon in July. So that was plant-based. And this is my first Ironman plant-based. And I will say, I feel, and I did Costa Rica, so I was back in Pura Vida in September, and I was recovered within 2 days. I've never, usually it takes me at least 2 weeks to system to recover from that kind of riding. 2 days back on heavy Kona. I went into a 20-hour build week for Kona off of Costa Rica, just ready to go. And, today I've noticed, or yesterday, the day after I raced, I wasn't that sore. Things are a little tight, but swim, loosen it up. Again, I feel I mentally and physically, I could easily go ride 100 miles tomorrow if I needed to. Maybe I don't want to run, but but it's a huge difference. Before, it would take me weeks to recover from Ironmans. I'd be really drained. I would need 7 cups of coffee the next day. Just everything would be system down. And I have not felt that way at all. And I've been able to turn over better training within my builds too, because I can just recover so much faster. And I think physically, yes, but the mental fog and clarity is so significantly different. You get so tired in Ironman training. I haven't really felt that maybe till the very end of this Kona build. And I think that's a huge difference. And I relate all that to being plant-based. It's made a huge difference. And I also just really like that there's no beings that were harmed in the process of me feeling my dreams. It just feels better. It just feels, more connected. And so once I realized had that hit that I should really try plant-based, it just all kind of fell into place, and it's been super easy adjustment, like not hard at all. It's been fantastic. I feel great, and it's been wonderful. So I really highly suggest if anybody is curious.
Yeah, I mean, for Beej and I became plant-based. Like you, Jennifer, I was just a natural born vegetarian my whole life with a huge cheese addiction. And we went into it for performance. And then eventually you just realize like this kind of oneness within all beings. Like I was saying just a couple days ago, we had like a cockroach funeral here at our Airbnb, because you just realize that every life is so precious, and it doesn't feel, there's some heavy things around it, and you just kind of breathe through it. As you open up to this world of animals being just really beautiful, smart, community-oriented beings, families, they have everything like that we have. They just don't have a voice. That you begin to see that beautiful connectedness within all beings, the trees and the cockroaches and the pigs and, your fellow competitors. And it's this really beautiful, in yoga, we would say sattvic, very harmonious way to live. And I think that harmony translates into our competitions. It translates into how we do the dishes, everything. We have less of an impact on this earth overall. So that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Karen, thank you for bringing that to the forefront. Okay. So good. Okay, here we go. We're going back to Tracy. She wants to know about the moment you crossed the finish line and any takeaway words from crossing the finish line.
The first thing that comes into my mind is unwavering belief in yourself. If there's something that's placed on your heart, you have to commit, and you have to see it through. And there'll be moments of doubt and fear and ups and downs and setbacks and moments when you move forward and you think it's going to be easeful. And all that came to a culmination as I crossed that line, saying like, for me, it took this long. And every step and everything that happened on that path was life. It's life. It's the ebb and flow of life. It's the ups and it's like the ocean. So I don't wish it any other way. And it happened so magically and perfectly because I released attachment to how it actually had to be achieved. And when you do that, as Jennifer was talking about earlier, you just have this calm appreciation for what it is that's happening, knowing that it's for your higher growth as a person. So when I crossed that line, I did tick a box on things that one thing that I have been looking to complete for many years now. But it also showed me that I'm not defined by this one event. This isn't the end. This is I'm still on the path. There's much, much more to go. And whether that includes coming back to Kona or more Ironmans, whatever it is, that's just one aspect. I think at the essence of it is that you need to find what you love and pursue it relentlessly until you achieve it. Dig that one big hole deep, not many little holes.
Yeah, the finish line was amazing. I was never an athlete as a kid. I was an athlete till I was like 33, and I've been thinking about this a lot because this like all came to me in the finish line. Is like my PE teacher told me I was too feminine to run fast and like I shouldn't try. Like I just nothing in my life indicated that I was an athlete like at all. But I always thought I was, and so. Like I didn't trust that voice for a really long time until I finally started to. When I found triathlon, it finally like clicked in. Like this is my dharma. This is 100%. I should be an athlete. I should be leading others in this amazing sport. Like this is what I am meant to do. And I'm so glad that I finally allowed that voice to click and then to follow it, because where it led me is to being at like the precipice of our sport. Like it's nobody up until maybe a few years ago ever thought that, including myself, that this is something that I could actually do. And in that journey, there was moments when I started, first my coach believed in me. And so I borrowed her belief in myself because I didn't have it. And then eventually I started to believe. And then I really started to believe. And then when I realized what it would take for me to get here is a lot of patience and consistency and perseverance, then I knew I could be here because I knew I could do that as long as it took. And so to sit here and for me, actually, the finish line was amazing. The most emotional start was the 5 minutes when you're treading water, waiting for the race to start. And you're out there in the ocean, you have these other women, and we're all super excited to be here. And the day is ahead of you. And there's no way I was not going to finish that. I would have crawled if I needed to finish that race. So I knew the finish line was inevitable. What wasn't inevitable is getting to that start line. So to be in the water and being you know what? It's going to happen. It's just it is going to happen in 30 seconds. This is going to happen. And to be there and to know that I did something that most people would never have thought that I could do and never achieve what I've been able to achieve and never be able to work through what I've worked through, to be in this moment and to be a part of this dream that I've had that I made happen. I just made this happen. Out of nothing, basically. That was the most powerful moment in all of this. And the rest was just the celebration and transformation of the rest of it. And so the finish line was amazing, but that waiting for those 5 minutes, trying the water in the ocean, knowing that the day is about to happen and that I got there it's been amazing. I just really, I feel really connected. I've really found who I'm supposed to be. And this day was an amazing celebration of that.
Oh, I love that. And everybody has a different path to getting to Kona. Like BJ said, if it's on your heart, just keep going. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, right? There is scientific law. We could say universal law. If you just keep your mind set on something and you stay focused, it can't not happen. It's science. It can't not happen. Einstein, what did Einstein say? He said, all we have to do is match the frequency. I'm paraphrasing this, match the frequency of our desire, and it can't not happen. And it's not philosophy, it's physics. So keep going, keep going. And we had a question from Alicia about getting to this race without ever completing an Ironman, but both of you have completed an Ironman, and you have to complete Ironmans to get to Kona, Alicia. So maybe this is on your heart, and maybe you've done Ironmans, maybe you haven't done Ironmans, but keep following that. And I just want to hear from you guys, because there's everybody has their own unique path. How many Ironmans did it take to get you here, or years to get you here?
16 years, 17 Ironmans, 2 DNSs, and 1 DNF. That's what it took.
I think Jennifer has a little bit of a cleaner path, but see, don't give up. Don't give up. BJ had almost 2 decades of reasons to give up. Don't give up. He's been on the podium at Ironman. He's been so far off the podium at Ironman. He hasn't even gotten to the starting line. Don't give up. Keep going. What about you, Jennifer?
Yeah, I guess if DJ, my opposite would be the opposite. Is that I didn't know how to ride a bike 6 years ago. I was a self-taught swimmer. I didn't know any of this. I had never done any of these sports, and so my coach took me up the South Mountain of Phoenix and was like, "You should change gears, higher your cadence," that. She went play by play how you ride a bike, and so I did my first Ironman in 2018. I did 2 of them. So this is my 6th one. I qualified on my 4th one at Coeur d'Alene. So I went from 0. So if you have 0 athletic experience at all, you also, with persistence and effort and consistency, you can also get here.
Yes.
And it can take however long it's supposed to take.
Exactly. And the universe doesn't work linear. It works all different ways. It's all magnetism. It's electromagnetism, right? That's what's keeping us on this earth right now. Electromagnetism. We call it gravity. But so it doesn't work in this linear fashion, even though we say hey, universe, this is the perfect plan. I'm going to go to Ironman Coeur d'Alene in 2006 on my aluminum giant road bike, which I may or may not be talking about BJ, and I'm going to qualify. But if we look at that as his qualification and all the 17 Ironmans that it ended up taking, there was so many valuable lessons in there and growth. Like, you have to match the energy to be welcomed onto this island. And both of you guys did that in your own unique ways, and it's beautiful. So we've got one final question for Daniel, and then we're going to wrap up this show. Daniel wants to know, if anybody knows Beej and I, then you know we've gone through a massive minimalization in our life, material-wise, but also I think mentally too. We've gotten rid of lots of mental clutter. So Coach Daniel wants to know if you took the medal.
I did, Daniel. I took it. It's a big one. I do have the medal. There was a quick moment there where she's the person that walks you from when you finish over to the tent. I definitely needed some guidance. I was a little bit out of it. Was going to get the medal, and I was like, and the T-shirt and all that. Normally, I don't take that stuff, or I haven't recently in recent past. But for some reason, I took it. And the necklace, which I'm looking at right now, which is so cool. Those are those nuts. What are they? The kukui nuts. And so I took it. I felt like I wanted to see it. I wanted to feel it. And you also get this smaller little medallion-looking metal thing too, which I may keep. But the big metal, metal, right now I'm keeping it, Daniel. But I don't think it's going to be something I hang on to because of just that. Like, for me, this is just my experience and my relationship to it. I don't want something to have a hold on me, like, not have a hold on me, but have this tie to, again, back to what I talked about. I'm so much more than just this. And this is me. Understand, this is just my philosophy, my perspective, and that I want to share it. And actually, I thought of sharing it with Luca, who is he is most certainly going to be doing an Ironman at some point in his life. He's 10 now, so he's got eight years. I think you have to be 18 to do an Ironman. But I think this would be a good seed planted and an inspiration for him. So yes, Daniel, I took it, and I took photos with the wall, and I did a yoga pose. So hopefully that one came out pretty cool with the medal. But yeah, it's a good question.
I take my medals, and I definitely took this one, but my daughter takes it in for show and tell in her classroom. And when I did St. George, she took the medal in, and one of the moms told me the next day her son asked to go buy running shoes so he could start running. And the whole class was following me. Like, the teacher put it out to follow me, and I get lots of questions about it. So, I think that is also for Luca, it's a really, because we can't bring Kona back with us, but we can bring something that signifies it, that can show the beauty and the power and the might of it. And that medal, it is a very massive medal. I think it really conveys that. I know that experience in her classroom has been one of inspiration for those kids. And I think that's cool that a piece of metal that I get after a race can convey the work and effort into the young minds. So.
Yeah, the trickle effect. And what is placed on our hearts is not there by happenstance. It's there for a reason. And, we always say, just live the demonstration, live the demonstration. And that was such a game changer for me when I first started meditating, was really looking at this world that I dreamed to see, and then really looking at myself and what was I doing to contribute to that world? Was I poison, or was I the magic? And I think inherently we all want to be the magic. And I think that this island reflects that within every single person that was drawn here, either as a competitor, as a volunteer, as a racer, as, Ironman itself. There's a beautiful magnetism on this island, and I feel certainly blessed to be here. I feel blessed to have you guys here with me and sharing your experience. Thank you so much. And I just want to thank Jennifer and Susanna and Hillary and Jennifer, two Jennifers out there, and Tracy. Everybody was sending me pictures yesterday of BJ. Hillary was all over the course supporting you, sending me quotes about things that you were saying, and it was just so overwhelming almost to to open and feel that love that was just so freely flowing between people who didn't know each other and still don't know each other. Just so beautiful. So thank you so much for being here. You guys, thank you for these questions. They were awesome. I love the way that this panned out, and I hope you enjoy the show. And of course, if there's anything that we didn't answer, drop it in the comments on either the IG posts or through our DMs on Instagram, and we will dive into that for sure. And then on this show, you guys, between Jennifer and BJ, we have two amazing coaches. So if you are looking to up your game in the mental space, especially, these guys are walking the talk. And I think that that's what coaches need to do. We need to live the demonstration. We can talk all day about how it's about mindset. But I believe that if you are not training the mind through meditation, that you are missing a massive piece of your potential that's sitting within you right now. It's not outside of you. It is within you. So thank you so much. Jennifer, why don't you just tell us where people can get more of you and YouTube Beach?
Yep. So Instagram, my name, Jennifer Vollman, and my coaching company is Finding Endurance. Finance.com, and then Pura Vida is Pura Vida Cycling Challenge too. So check us out if you want some awesome rides in Costa Rica.
Highly recommend the rides in Costa Rica. That was amazing and really good fitness and community love down there. I'm Brian Gumkowski on Instagram, probably the best place to check me out. Yogi Triathlete. We have a training camp. So want to come check us out January 12th to the 16th, 2023 in Carlsbad. 5 days. Come join us. It's going to be awesome.
All right. And we have one more thing coming in from Dan Beaver. Jennifer, happy birthday. It is your birthday today on Sunday after Kona. What a celebration weekend. Thank you, Dan, for that shout out.
Yeah, nothing like turning a year older and feeling fitter and faster and racing a world championship, right? Yay for age. This is awesome.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.